And we're good. Okay, we're back. And we had audio problems again. Caught it a little faster this time. So we're going to start all over again. Yay. Congratulations. So this is Dire Armory, Medic Monday. And we're going to talk about dehydration and why you should not drink water. So this is, we're getting into the summertime, the hotter temperatures here in the ATL area. It's already, heat index is already topping over 90 degrees. So it's hot. So this is something that is coming and is most likely going to start affecting people pretty quick. So to make a statement of why you should not drink water, that requires a little bit of qualifying, right? So let's jump right in. So dehydration, your body is a great big vessel, kind of like this shaker bottle. It has to have a certain amount of water in it in order for it to function correctly. If you have too much, just like a bottle or any other container, it's going to spill over. So if you have too much water, if your body is functioning correctly, you will urinate it out, and so you'll be okay. The issue is if you are only drinking straight water and you're not replacing other vital nutrients, that you're going to cause other problems. We'll talk about that some more here in a minute. But essentially your body, right, so it's a big container, you're 70% water. 70% of your body is water. You lose water when you sleep. A lot of people don't think about that, but as you breathe, just normal day to day, every time you exhale, you're actually exhaling water droplets out into the atmosphere. So when you sleep, it's not just drool when you're losing fluid, it's just your inhalation, exhalation processes. You're going to be losing water. The vast majority of people wake up dehydrated in the morning, and that's why. And you will also kind of see that you have a lot of the similar symptoms that I'm going to talk about, and it's because you're starting the day out dehydrated. So you lose hydration when you sleep. Walking and moving around town, doing normal perspiration. Here in the South, when it gets really hot and really humid, everybody sweats. You can tell. If you're not sweating, you either have a genetic predisposition to not sweat so much, or you're dehydrated, and that's bad. Yeah, so what happens when you're dehydrated, right? So there's this one big thing that we see in the EMS field. It's called altered mental status. And as we get into the summer months, the two tend to go a lot more closely together. And there's a lot of other subsequent conditions or auxiliary conditions, right, comorbidities and stuff that can compound dehydration, or dehydration can kind of magnify, that go into a true altered mental status. But just on a day-to-day, I mean, I've run hundreds of people that are out working in the yard in the summertime, and they just get dehydrated, and they show a lot of the same symptoms, right, that somebody with other medical conditions are beginning to show. One of those is altered mental status. So this one can affect you when you're dehydrated, when you're sick, when you are excited, when you're sad, whatever. I mean, it means you're altered. Your ability to perceive, recognize, and respond to normal stimuli that is happening around you is suppressed in some degree. Or it could be amplified, but generally we see that with our psych patients. Anyway, rabbit trail, come back around. So, confusion. Let's talk about confusion. This is not just like a simple, oh, you don't understand what I just told you, let me repeat that to you. To find a true, a truly confused person, I guess, is they're not able to respond well to who, what, and where, right? Who are you? What are you doing? What were you doing? And where are you? Those are three major questions that we ask people when we're trying to determine just how alert they are. How well are people responding? I don't know what to do with my hands. I'm sorry. So who are you? Where are you? What are you doing? And so when you're dehydrated, especially in the summer months, especially here down in the South, you lose your ability to be cognitively aware. So if you're watching this video, odds are you are somebody that wants to be able to be cognitively aware of your surroundings, right? You are either into the firearms community. I have somehow convinced you to be more proactive with medical preparedness because it's important, it's very useful. Or you want to be a protector, provider, you want to be able to take care of those that are around you, right? If you're dehydrated, you are going to have problems doing any and all of those, right? So think about too, if one of your loved ones gets hurt, you want to have the sharpest mental acuity that you can to be able to help them. If my kids get hurt, I don't want to have neglected my body so much so that I can't pick them up and take them to where I need to go. If you are dehydrated or somewhat dehydrated, that's going to be a major factor in how well you can take care of somebody else. So what would you see with someone who is dehydrated? Well, you can see the altered mental status, not always, but you can. You yourself, so think about these symptoms too, these things that I'm going to say. You know, they could apply to you or to somebody else that you are around. So keep that in your brain, right? So loss of consciousness or a decreased level of consciousness, right? So that kind of goes back to that confused state of who, what, where. That could happen to you, could happen to somebody else. So if you're talking to somebody who seems lethargic, which is also huge, and they're not able to tell you who they are, what they've been doing, where they are, if they're missing some pretty easy questions there, then you can start putting everything together to figure out, okay, what is actually going on here with my loved one, right? So remember, police, fire, EMS are 7 to 10 minutes from wherever you are, pretty much at the closest possible moment. And those times, I hate to tell you, but those times kind of seem to just be increasing from the time a call hits a 911 center to the time it gets processed through, the time it gets dispatched to the appropriate units. They navigate through traffic, the time they get to you. It could be 15 minutes. It could be 20 minutes sometimes. It just depends, right? We've run calls in our territory where everybody's just really busy, and my fire engine has had to go close to 20 miles to get to a call. And this is in a major urban area, have a 26-minute response time. Maybe it wasn't 20 miles, but it was far. It was enough to where it was 26 minutes. That's a long way to go. You're going to be stuck with somebody for a long time. If you call 911, we don't just show up magically, right? It takes a little bit of time. So you come across somebody who is altered, right? Their level of consciousness is down. They are seeming really lethargic, meaning they're having trouble moving. They can't get up and stand on their own. They're moving like their arms and their legs are just kind of in wet sand. It's real slow. And their speech is abnormal, right? It could just be really sluggish, really slurred. They might not be intoxicated. They might not be on drugs. They very well may be dehydrated, right? Another thing that they could be complaining of, or you would experience yourself, are large muscle cramps, right? So these are going to be in your thigh, in your arms, your biceps, in your back, places where there are big muscles. That water is going to be depleted from those places. And so are all of those essential vitamins and minerals. So those muscles are going to contract down, be really sore, or they can just spasm and just completely log. Headaches are huge right now, especially in pollen season, so you kind of have to keep an eye on, what are your allergy state versus water intake plus heat plus physical exertion. So kind of moving into some of the more severe findings for dehydration, right? So if you don't pay attention to those first things and pick up on it there and take corrective action then you can move into some very serious medical conditions with dehydration. The first and foremost I want to say is renal failure. This is when your kidneys start to shut down because there's not enough fluid in your body. Your kidneys are not able to process all of the waste that your body is producing as it goes through its normal cellular life cycle, right? So you would begin to notice changes in your urinary color. So a normally hydrated person, your urine is going to be pretty much clear, maybe just a hint of yellow or green to it. If you take a lot of vitamins, or you have just taken vitamins within a couple of hours and you go to the bathroom and you notice that your urine is a bright color, that's just your vitamins, your excess vitamins that your body was not able to process and absorb. But moving down through yellow, into dark yellow, into brown, into like really brown, into blood. Those are the stages of renal failure. And when you start to get from kind of a light yellow to yellow to yellowy brown, you're in bad shape and you need to rehydrate your body. And at that point, you have a whole lot of other things going on. So when you're dehydrated, you're going to be low on sodium, salt. You're going to be low on magnesium, you're going to be low on potassium, and there is one other that escapes my brain at the moment, calcium. So all those are kind of the four major minerals, substances, right, that your body needs in order for your cells to function correctly and in order for your muscles to function correctly. One of those muscles is your heart. And if you are out of whack on all of those, we call it an electrolyte imbalance. That's why when you buy a hydration beverage, you're looking for the electrolyte content on it. When your electrolytes are off, that can cause your heart to beat really weird. That's called a cardiac dysrhythmia. You can have, it's called palpitations. That's where you can I can just feel my heartbeat a few times really fast. What was that? And that can be really unnerving for people. And that can be from dehydration and electrolyte imbalance. The two really go hand in hand. So when you are looking into the realm of the severe dehydration, where there are like really bad medical conditions beginning to present themselves, you're moving towards that renal failure, which is dehydration over an exceedingly prolonged period of time. Here's some other things that you can be looking at, right? So your blood pressure can go down, and your pulse rate can go up. This would be a hypovolemic shock that is no longer compensating. So let me back up, because that's kind of a big word that can kind of freak people out. If you watch any medical show or rescue show or whatever, you will hear almost every single time when somebody goes down, oh, they're in shock. They're in shock. So much so that I have run calls where somebody is having some kind of something, and somebody, I kid you not, will come out of some room somewhere and they'll say, they're in shock. You got to take care of them, man. They're in shock. And it's like, are they in shock or are they startled? I think they're startled. Shock is completely different. Shock is when your body is in a condition where it is struggling to maintain equilibrium and is going to begin losing that fight. That's decompensated shock. So with all of this dehydration kind of thing, what I'm getting at is something that's called hypovolemic shock, right? So your body is a container. Your blood vessels are a container that moves blood around. If there's not enough water to keep your blood the correct volume, then that container, right? So say this is your blood vessel. Well, you've only got fluid up to here now, so it will shrink. But if you're still losing fluid, right, and you're not replacing and refilling that container, then it's going to continue to shrink, and it'll only get so far, and then there's no fluid in here, right? So the issue with that is when there is no fluid in the container, your heart can't beat effectively. And that's when you start to see some crazy dysrhythmias. So you're low on volume in the container, your heart is beating abnormally, your blood pressure, so that's the ability of your veins and your arteries to rebound and reflex after your heartbeat, right? So when your heart pushes fluid, that puts out a lot of pressure, and then there's like a resting pressure. So that's pretty much what your blood pressure is, just in a very simplified manner of speaking. So when your blood pressure numbers begin to deteriorate and go down, one of the things that you'll begin to see is a very weak or absent radial pulse, which is pretty common in dehydrated patients, and it can also get accelerated and feel fast. And believe it or not, some patients will get a little bit hyperthermic for just a few minutes, but then they'll become hypothermic. If a dehydrated patient is very, very cold, that's a pretty bad day. And then some other things are shortness of breath. So you feel like you can't get a full breath, and pain in your chest wall. Those two kind of will be related a lot of times with patients that are dehydrated. Is they'll feel like, man, I can't take a deep breath. Well, why not? Man, it hurts so bad whenever I breathe. Okay, we'll take a deep breath. Watch them take a deep breath, and they'll say, oh, it's right there. A lot of times what that is comes down to the fluid lining inside of your chest wall cavity, right? So there's the bones and the muscles, and then there's kind of a space, and there's a pleural lining, and then it's your vital organs. Well, that pleural lining has got to have fluid in it in order for it to maintain viscosity with the chest wall. So when you breathe, your chest wall actually expands, and if there's not fluid in that pleural area, then that membrane will actually get hung on the inside of the chest wall, and it will get pulled with the breath, and it's very, very painful. So you can see that, and then another very late sign is what's called tinting, and that's a result of poor skin turgor. There's your big words for the day, which essentially means how fast does your skin bounce back if it's pulled on, right? So with my skin, pinch it like this, and it snaps back down pretty quick, right? Severely dehydrated patients, and this is very common in the elderly population as well. You can pull up, I've pulled and tinted up on someone's hand, right? Check their skin turgor, and just watched it just stay the exact same for several minutes. That's a very dehydrated patient. So dehydration is pretty crazy. And then possibly one of the worst complications that can come from dehydration, and I see this a lot in the summer, is actually a heart attack. So it will affect the right side of the heart, which is the side where the fluid is coming in to the heart in order to be pumped out throughout the rest of the body. If that fluid is not there, it will actually cause a heart attack incident, and that's bad. And then you've got all the other things that happen with that. It will be called a right-sided myocardial infarction. And I've seen many of those, and I've seen them resolve with fluid administration. So fluid is very, very important. So what can we do to correct poor hydration and dehydration? So like I said, this is summer months. This is going to be common right now for a long time, until probably October for the area that I live in. Some places where it's hotter longer, you know, it can be more of a year-round. But if you are active in any degree here in the southeast, this is something you need to be thinking about. So one of the best things you can do is be proactively hydrating throughout the day, and you have to eat healthy to go along with that, right? So a lot of those vitamins and minerals, the sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, a lot of those you can get through food. But if you're not getting a good variety of vegetables and leafy greens in your daily diet, you are predisposing yourself to having an electrolyte problem. So when you wake up in the morning, drink water. Drink a whole glass of water, 8 to 10 to 12 to 16 ounces of water. Just chug it and pound it down if you can. As I said earlier, when you wake up, you're starting off the day behind the 8 ball. You're already dehydrated when you wake up. You've got to drink water first thing in the morning. I am a longtime major coffee fiend. I am going through a coffee detox right now, and caffeine detox, and it's miserable. But what I've noticed is just how dehydrated I am, because caffeine dehydrates you. It pulls all the water, can pull all the water out of your body because it's a diuretic, which means it makes you pee. So drink water first thing in the morning, drink water throughout the day. You don't have to go to the extreme of walking around with your big gallon jug with your marks on it, and I've got to drink this whole gallon. That might be too much water for you. There is a condition from drinking too much water that essentially has the opposite effect. You can overhydrate yourself so much so that all those vitamins and minerals that you need begin to be flushed out of your system, and you just are void of electrolytes. So drink in the morning, drink throughout the day. If you're exercising or you're working out in the yard, you need to drink something. If you don't want to do like a sports drink, rehydration drink, coconut water is really, really good. That was actually the first IV fluid way back when. And then I recommend, my personal recommendation is this liquid IV stuff. I am really digging these right now. There were some comparative studies between liquid IV, Gatorade, Powerade, Pedialyte, and a couple of other different ones. And they were checking just kind of to see how the balance of the vitamins, minerals, and the sugars that are in this stacked up against the other ones to figure out which one is going to be the best and most effective, right? Studies found that Pedialyte, Gatorade, and Powerade were actually dehydrative in nature, and they did the opposite. Reason being is because there's so much sweetener in it, your body has to work so hard to process it that it uses up all of those vitamins and minerals that it needs to function correctly, right? So all of those electrolytes that you need were being expended to process the sugars from the drink. Counterproductive. I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong. but it's not good for you. And so with this stuff, this liquid IV stuff, they found that it worked really, really good, and it did not have the same dehydrative effect on it. You can buy these pretty much anywhere. I've seen them at Walmart, I've seen them at the grocery store, I get them at Costco, and I keep these in my kind of my emergency bag in my car. This summer I'm actually going to keep them in my first aid kit. One of my kids got sick recently, like just sick, thrown up sick. He got to where he stopped throwing up, and I gave him one of these. I kid you not, the next morning he was so much better. And that's just the profound power of being dehydrated and rehydrating correctly. So these are just a little stick. It's a dry pack. You just pour it in some water, shake it up, and drink it. And they work great. They come in different flavors. I like the lemon lime personally. There's a strawberry that's okay. Kind of tastes like a Jolly Rancher, so I'm not a huge fan. But this one is good to go. I like it. So that's dehydration for today. I think that's pretty much it. Just want to reiterate being sick. You get really dehydrated when you're sick. Gave some of these to a couple of friends that had COVID. They were really sick, and they said it really helped them to feel better. So if you're dehydrated and you notice that you're getting dehydrated, I encourage you to have some options. There's another mix around. It's called Banana Bag. I've seen it on Amazon. The reviews, I've not tried it. I've heard that the reviews are very bland and gross tasting, but that it works very, very well. So there's that option too. If you want to try it, come back, put a comment on the video, and let us know how it worked for you. What I will say about this though, real quick, is that it has stevia in it, and if you are allergic to ragweed, you may have an issue being allergic to stevia as well. So just so you know, stevia is not always good. But anyway, that's pretty much it. This stuff is great. There's your dehydration. Heads up, we're getting into summer. Be on top of it. And as always, keep your med kits stocked, supplied, and handy. Go to diararmory.com, buy some med gear, get some training, find somebody. And that's it. That's going to be Medic Monday for today. That's all. Peace out. See you next time.